TV station groups are weaning off syndication. Their reasoning is simple. Ratings are low, syndicated shows are expensive. Viewers have a lot more options with streaming now than in syndication's heyday. So station groups wager that they'll get a bigger bang by boosting local production rather than going with another failing Syndy. I'm Michael Depp, editor of TVNewsCheck, and this is Talking TV, the podcast that brings you smart conversations about the business of broadcasting. Today, that conversation will tackle what syndication producers think about the fate they seem to have been consigned with at local TV's periphery. My guest is Robert Rose, host and executive producer of the AIM TV Group and its program, Raw Travel TV, which airs in 173 US TV markets. We'll be right back with that conversation. Welcome, Robert Rose.
Hey, thank you for having me, Michael. Appreciate it.
Thanks for being here. So, Robert, you're the host and producer of Raw Travel. Let's get some context first. Describe the show briefly for us.
Yeah, so Raw Travel is going into its 10th season. It's independently produced, independently distributed. We are a vertical, but obviously we are, extremely small. It's the only show that we do. So I call ourselves like a micro budget, fully vertical studio.
Okay, great. And so the thing is, there's a lot of travel programming out there across the spectrum in television. What's your hook? How do you distinguish this show?
Yeah, I mean, you say there's a lot of travel programming out there, but when you look at the competitive landscape, especially when it comes to broadcast TV, there's very little quality travel programming. And so at the time when I began it, really the idea was to reflect the travel experience that people were actually having versus what I was seeing on US television in particular, which is more like fantasy travel, more like, wow, I wish I was rich or wealthy or whatever. It was kind of flashy, et cetera. And we were more like, no, everyone should be able to travel. Everyone can afford to travel. And by the way, we can show how travel can be a little bit more fulfilling experience if you're more authentic. So it's really about authentic travel. We were saying the word authentic back in 2013 before it became a buzzword, but the idea was also to incorporate some giving back and showing people how they can do things like volunteerism. So we were touching upon touch points in the travel space that no one had ever done before, but quite simply, it was because these were the experiences that travelers like myself were having, and they were not reflected on television. So that's kind of what separates us. It's really just about being authentic and real, maybe going to some on the beaten path and off the beaten path destinations. And we do a variety of travel because we are broadcast. We have to represent, a lot of branches on the travel tree, which can include RV travel. We've done some cruises, we've done train travel, but it's also really focused on independent international travel as much as possible because that's what's in my wheelhouse.
Okay, good. So that's you, that's your show, that's where you're coming from, what your company is. Let's talk about this market. So syndicated programming has found itself in some dire straits. The market is constricting. Local station groups are turning their attention back to their own resources to increase more local production and fill those syndicated slots. Did Syndies bring this on themselves?
A little bit. I mean, consolidation of the media environment occurred, obviously, but I think one of the biggest opportunities that syndicators missed, and that was probably an effect of them just being so big at one time, was, the cost of production came down dramatically. We've always been on the bleeding edge of that as a small producer. And, I've been producing independently since 2000. I've just seen the costs go down and down. And so many people want to inflate and keep those budgets high, and the business just will not support that anymore because the ratings aren't there. And so one of the keys for our success has been that we always kept our expenses really low. If I don't have the money, I don't spend it. Because I'm financing it myself, I keep it really low. And you take that possible negative and turn it into a positive, because with the advent of YouTube and storytelling and TikTok and all these other platforms that are out there that are competitive to syndication, these are the types of stories that people are used to seeing. And television never shifted. It always stayed with the studio audience and and the big budgets and the slick productions, when actually slick production is not what people are looking for. What they're looking for is compelling content that they can't find anywhere else, or they have to dig and find it, especially on the broadcast platform, and good storytelling. It always comes down to good storytelling. If you can tell a good story that engages people, and what we focus on is finding that void in the marketplace, which was travel, especially as Travel Channel stopped doing actual travel content. There really wasn't very much on television, cable or broadcast, truly dedicated to authentic travel.
Of course, Tony Bourdain's death left a void in that space as well, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. And I mean, he was a huge influence for me. But, I always, made pains to make sure that I was not trying to be another Anthony Bourdain. I had to be me, because I'm not a professional. He was a great writer and a celebrity. I'm an anti-celebrity. We started the show saying no celebrities. We will have no celebrities. And the idea was to demystify this experience of travel and to say it's open for everybody. But yeah, you're right, it did. And what boggles my mind is the fact that despite Raw Travel's success, there haven't been more people join in. And I kind of understand, because it is very difficult. It's hard. It's not the glamorous job that people think it is. You have to be truly dedicated to it. But I love it and I'm passionate about it. And it's the only genre of television that I would probably do and sacrifice as much to tell these stories, because I truly believe in it. The power, the life-changing power of travel. And that's why I do it. But there are other genres that could also, come to the fore.
Well, do you think that syndicators have misstepped or miscalculated the market?
I think they're too focused on money. And I know it's going to sound glib, because obviously we're all here to make money. You have to make money. But what a lot of the corporate large companies are like, if I can't make 50 million, then it's not worth me doing. Well, obviously that's not a consideration for me. And so what has happened is you have really huge syndicators and really tiny syndicators. And the tiny syndicators, unfortunately, have been just scrapping along. Sometimes, the content is like the stuff they put in between the commercials. They're money first. And then if there's any storytelling, that's just, coincidental to the process. And so when you squeeze, there was a lot of medium-sized syndicators filling that void that left. And so what I wanted to do was just be a production first. I'm like, tell good stories first and hope that the money follows. And it did. And I think with the bigger companies, their challenge is essentially decision by committee. There's too many chefs in the kitchen. And again, they're focused on it's got to make X amount of dollars or it's not worth it to us. Well, I'm like, why not do more programming, but scale down your production budgets and focus, do a little forethought instead of just doing another court show or another reality show or whatever that's cheap. There's a lot of derivative programming in syndication in particular.
Would you be able to do your show from scratch right now? Is the market conducive to that, or would it be, has that window closed for a smaller syndicator like you?
I would say it actually in some ways would be easier, because people need the content more. Now, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I really liked it better when I had to work hard, show the value and the worth of my show. I felt like it was more of a meritocracy 9 years ago when we launched, or 10 years ago when we launched. And now it's become like, hey, if it's good enough, and maybe I don't even look at it and see what's happening on the weekends. And the result of that has been, and the weekends is where I focus more, Monday through Friday. I don't even watch broadcast TV, and that's sad. But I think, that's because there's really nothing on for me. I look at it and I'm like, I'm not engaged, and I'll sit through some commercials if I'm engaged, but, there's just a lot of factors at play. I do believe that there is an opportunity now, more than ever, for really good storytellers, and there's a definite need for that. How do they make a business out of that? Yeah, it's tough, but I think it's still open for them. And I think the broadcasting industry needs to figure out a way to welcome these type of storytellers, because there's some good storytellers out there. They have no idea what syndication is. Some of them are young and they have no idea what broadcast TV is, because we've done a terrible job as an industry, maybe on purpose because we wanted retrans, but we've done a terrible job of communicating to younger audiences that thing on the wall, if you turn it on, has magically content that's free floating through the air. And I know this from experience because I constantly have to explain what broadcast TV is to viewers.
Yeah, that's another show. But briefly on weekends, I know you have a particular bone to pick with syndication on weekends. You want to make that case really briefly?
Yeah, well, I think, smaller syndicators are attracted to the weekends because they're kind of filling in between sports and network programming. And, the thing that I've noticed is that some of the lower quality stuff, that I call it cringeworthy. There's everything from cringeworthy stuff, girls dancing in bikinis. I mean, this is 2022. It looks like it belongs in 1975. I've seen content that was so old that, like it's a sports interview show and it's got like Tom Brady talking about, his time in the present at the New England Patriots. That obviously is not good. It hasn't been freshened up. But I think the biggest threat to all of us, whether it's Monday through Friday or the weekends, are some syndicators just cramming in a ridiculous amount of commercials. And it's misleading to the stations because the stations are still getting their same share, but the national syndicator is cramming in, 1 or 2 minutes more, on top of the fact that their content is not that compelling, and they're cutting corners in other ways, like just, stay tuned, a minute long credits or whatever. When you put the end of it, it's like, dude, what are you doing? We know you're making money, but you're not producing anything of any value at all. And I just think we got to call that out, and we got to support the shows that are trying to do and tell good stories and are really, and curate the weekends. Don't just slap stuff up against the wall, because I look at it like a restaurant. If you have a restaurant, do you really want to serve a bad meal ever? Even if it isn't rush hour, that person's never coming back to you. We should have learned our lessons with infomercials. When you put too many infomercials on, people tune out, they won't come back. We finally, I guess, have learned our lesson from that a little bit. There's less of that on the air, but we need to put more content on. So I say, if you have a good show, run it more.
So obviously you don't think syndication is totally down for the count. Where do you make its value proposition still for local broadcasters?
Well, I mean, the good news is syndication's hurting. Cable's just gone. I mean, it's just ridiculous. At my gym, they have MTV on. I haven't watched MTV since the early 2000s probably, but it's ridiculous because they have the ridiculous on 24/7. All the cable channels are basically one show repeated the 24/7, cycle. And then you have, of course, streaming. And so with streaming, there's a glut of content. I was just trying to find something good on Netflix the other night. It's just a lot of work. Sometimes I like to kick it old school, turn on broadcast TV, flip around the channel, and just see what's on. I'm trying to unplug from being on the computer, from seeking out information. I want it to entertain me. And so I think the opportunity are with the digital subchannels, and again, just seeking out producers that have stories to tell, figuring out a way that we can, and that's the challenge, to monetize that and to figure out a healthy ecosystem that rewards good producers and does not reward people who are not good producers, but who are simply, just trying to get as much money as they can before the whole business collapses.
So concretely, what needs to change to increase ratings and restore faith?
Curating content. Just curate the content Monday through Friday, as well as the weekends. There's no throwaway weekend. There's no throwaway time periods. If a show doesn't belong, and that includes my show, man, don't run it. Let it be a meritocracy. I want my show to stand for itself. And if I can't compete, and if I'm not good enough, then I can go find something else. There's about a million other things I can do, including just travel. So curate the content, reward the producers and the viewers that I get. A lot of them are frustrated. They always come to me whenever we get preempted or bumped or it's on late at night. And I'm like, there's nothing I can do, but they're really annoyed when they can't find the show when it's supposed to be on. And so those types of things, people act really glibly towards the weekends. And I'm like, stop being so glib. Not all, obviously, but as a whole, it's really tough when you have 173 stations. I might have 150 that are just, solid all the time, but I'm always dealing with like 20 or 30 that I have to like constantly stay on top of. So if I didn't have to do that, I could produce better television programming. If everybody just kind of curated their own show and took pride in their weekends and said, hey, we're going to only put the best stuff up there, and we're going to really look at this and take ownership of this.
So where do you see the syndicated marketplace in the next couple of years? More winnowing down, or any green shoots, or is it really just a matter of managing decline for those who remain in the industry?
I hope it's not managing decline, because I think if you're doing that, we've given up. But it does seem like where a lot of people are. And I think with consolidation, there's fewer people doing more work, and it's demoralizing. A lot of people want, of course, to do a good job, but they can't because they're pulled in so many different directions. I know I'm working harder than I ever have in my life, and I know other television folks are. So somehow with consolidation, the people at the top, or the bean counters, or the people who are putting the money together, have to allocate dollars so that stations can create good local content. And it's going to be a blend of good local content with some, I think, curated national content, rather than, hey, here's somebody who's got 50 shows. It fills my weekends, or it fills my programming schedule. Yeah, that's great. But is anybody watching? And why would they? Would you watch? And if you wouldn't watch, or if you can't see why someone else would watch, then why is it on your air? Shouldn't be on your air. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but it feels like we are managing the decline, but I'm going to fight against it. I'm Don Quixote, man. I'm going to keep doing it.
Good luck against the windmill. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks to you, Robert Rose, for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really do appreciate it.
The show is Raw Travel TV. Check it out. And thanks to everyone for watching and listening. See you next time. A new episode of Talking TV is available most Fridays on TVNewsCheck.com. You can also listen and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, and Spotify.